This is a much discussed topic locally, frequently mentioned in articles and letters to the editor, especially on the island newspapers. I was staying out of the island this past summer, reading one of the local papers out there, and after reading a couple of the articles and editorials, I didn't know if it was the April Fool's edition or if it was actually the actual newspaper. And so it's obviously a very emotional topic to a lot of people, and something that I think sometimes, the mainlanders, it's easy to kind of, disregard and say, hey, it's just, the cost of living in paradise. But there's obviously some issues out there that we thought would make for a good Tiger Bay topic. And we think we have a nice panel assembled. We have all 4 of the island communities represented in our panel. And I think y'all are going to hear a nice program. We also wanted to have somebody from the Bradenton area Visitors and Conventions Bureau to come, but Elliot and his people who normally do these presentations, they're out of town. They were not able to make it. Fortunately for us, one of our panelists, David TEITELBAUM, is the vice chair of the Manatee County Tourist Development Council. He's also a resort owner and very involved in development out on the island, and he brings the Bradenton Beach perspective as well. Our second panelist, David ZACCAGNINO, and I have 3 very difficult last names here, so we're going to go by David T, David Z, and Tom A. But so David Z is a financial planner with a second full-time job as a Holmes Beach commissioner since 2005, and I believe he was reelected, even though he's still waiting to hear the final results. So it was obviously a very tight race. So, but congratulations, we thank. And but he obviously brings a perspective of a Holmes Beach resident, elected official who can discuss kind of what he hears from his constituents. And then our third panelist, Tom A, was trained as a young stage actor, was a former mayor of Poughkeepsie, New York, which Poughkeepsie is almost as tough as these last names we have here. He moved to Anna Marie Island in 1997, where he was former AMI City Commissioner. He's a former president of the Longboat Key Chamber, current member of the Longboat Key Revitalization Task Force, and y'all might recognize his name. He's a weekly columnist on island issues in the Herald Tribune. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with David, and then David T, and then David Z, and then Tom A. And each panelist will give a 3 to 5 minute just discussion. We'll open it up for questions from Tiger Bay members. If you have a question after their 3 presentations, obviously go to the microphone. It is for Tiger Bay members only, but we are accepting applications at the desk right over there. It's $100 to join. And one thing I do want to point out, that mic is not amplified. We're having some technical problems. So it is wired to METV, but it's not amplified. So when you start talking, if you could use your outdoor voice, that would be great. So let's start with David T.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to start with the talking points for the CVB part. I'm going to wear that hat. And we're going to talk about what is actually happening from the Tourist Development Council in terms of what we're doing in terms of tourism. The Bradenton area will see this year an increase in visitation by 6.2% and tourism tax collection by 11%. And it's the 3rd year in a row that these numbers are up. Actually, the entire West Coast has had record-breaking years for the last 3 years. Visit Florida has a budget of $58 million, and this year we're going to surpass California in visitation. We're shooting for 100 million visitors to Florida. I'm on one of the committees there, and it's been quite interesting to see their progress. Industry projects and their participation has helped spread the cost of doing a lot of the marketing for the TDC. And the largest segment of our business comes from the leisure market, and we are a couples and family destination. which we'll talk later about the people that are coming and who they are. The sports segment has grown over the past several years with the evolution of IMG, Premier Sports Campus, the Pittsburgh Pirates, Ellington Ice, and the Anderson Racetrack. The niche markets have been very important for our marketing purposes. We do arts, and in this Saturday we have Symphony on the Sand in Coquita Beach, which is a full orchestra. Certainly, we have a few tickets left, and if anybody would like to, the Chamber of Commerce is selling them. Agritourism is an item for us. Ecotourism, Robinson Preserve, Emerson Point, and Jiggs Landing, to name a few. And the culinary tourism is a very, very important recent culinaria promotion that was very successful. Our feeder markets, for your information, is Tampa, St. Pete is 1, 2 is Orlando, Lakeland, and 3 is Miami, St. Pete. Domestically, we have New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Boston, and then Washington, Baltimore. Internationally, it's the UK, and then Germany, and then Switzerland and Scandinavia, and then the Canadian market. To be continued. And we have a very, very popular visitor's guide, and we are found on with the iPad, iTunes, and in the Bradenton area visitor's guide itself. We have Mobi apps, and our goal is for the industry to grow and partner in the market. And just to be timely now with what this meeting is about, we do not market to day trippers, which is a new word that we've learned to use and abuse. We are looking for families, and that's really what our objective is. Can I continue with more of this? Yeah. Okay. There was a very interesting article in the Bradenton Herald by Sarah Kennedy recently. It's about a large house here in Bradenton that has $4,500 a week and $18,000 per month, and how successful it is with weddings and overcrowding and all those things that are illegal as far as we're concerned. However, it is perfectly legal for a house to rent on a weekly basis. And there's not much that can be done about it, because at this point they're allowed by law to do this. There's a movement now to take the law that's available and change it, but at this point it's perfectly legal. And can you regulate vacation type accommodations? The answer is no. The law stripped the local governments of their ability to regulate vacation rentals. And it's House Bill 883 forbids the governments from regulating, restricting, or prohibiting vacation rentals with grandfathered exceptions. Residents living in the cities of Anna Maria Island have complained about oversized vacation rental duplexes and springing up on single-family lots. And there's issues there that we're struggling with on the island, and you'll hear more about that, and I'm sure you all read all about it as well. There's a lobbying activity going on right now. Jean Peelan's in the room here. She's part of that, where they're trying to have this law rescinded, and there's some momentum towards it. There are, however, code enforcement ways to regulate the abuses, and I'm going to discuss a few of them with you right now. There are federal HUD standards about measuring overcrowding in housing. It's a federal law, and it trumps state and county. And it's described as 2 persons per bedroom plus 1. That's the law. And the state health code and fire codes limit overcrowding, and it's applicable to all housing, including vacation rental. Swimming pools are considered residential or commercial, yet on the island, particularly in Holmes Beach and in Anna Maria, the pools are in fact commercial in terms of their structure and their size and their ability, and yet they are regulated as residential. So there's an issue there, and the swimming pools are a problem. Quiet enjoyment is a common law, and it refers to the right of an occupant of rental property, particularly of a resident, to enjoy the use of the premises in peace without interference. It's a big deal, common law. That's very important. The Florida State Zoning Code regulates what is a single-family property, and it is very clear that it's a family or an individual or two or more related by legal adoption, blood, or legitimate marriage, or a group of not more than 4 persons who need to be not be related, who live together in a single housekeeping. And that's not being enforced on the island at this point. And density, an exception for families, about 30 days, and that's not being, a lot of this is enforcement. And if the cities would be more active in their enforcement, we'd have less difficulties. Environmental nuisances are prohibited, and no person can, this is a Manatee County code, no person can cause, let, permit, suffer, or allow any emissions or discharge into the atmosphere, soil, or waters of any substance, or commit any act which causes injury or a public nuisance. Noise is one of those things, and that's, again, a local law here in Manatee County, and that covers over all of the local laws. As noise, any sound which annoys or disturbs humans or tends to create an adverse psychological effect. And it's harmful or injurious and can interfere with normal conduct of life. So anyway, that's really kind of the law side of this thing. It's the tourist side of it. I own and operate 4 hotels, and fortunately, we tell all our guests not to disturb their guests, their other neighbors, and if they do, they will be removed. And so far this year, we've had to remove only 1 guest. But we tell the guests what the rules are, they sign for it, and it's very clear. I believe that in the case of Anna Maria Island, the towns need to allow the rental agents to provide real clear guidance to what is acceptable and what's not. Because what we're talking about is behavior modification. Of course, when you have a single-family home, quote unquote, with 18 bedrooms and 18 occupants unrelated, and they're there having a big party, it's very hard to regulate that. But there's also, in Anna Maria right now, they'll give them 1 notice, and they'll say to stop it, and if they don't stop it, the next time they come back, they're out. So that's interesting with the rental agencies doing that, as well as the police. It's a lot of police enforcement that's involved. Bill is sitting here smiling at me. And frankly, it's about common sense. So that's my...
All right, well, thank you. I'm David ZACCAGNINO, and I appreciate you guys coming today, and I appreciate Tiger Bay giving me this opportunity. And as David T was talking about, it is about a lot of enforcement issues. So I did bring my chief of police, Chief Tokacher, and our city attorney here, so I've got some backup. Chief Code Enforcement Officer Dave Forbes as well. Appreciate that. And Commissioner Gene Palin is here from Holmes Beach. This is a very, very complex issue. There's a lot of things to talk about. It's going to be tough to get it in 3 minutes here, but I'm going to try, and hopefully the question and answer portion will, also bring out some of the things that we can talk about. But I was actually talking to a developer on the island today, and he told me the only way that I can stop people coming is if I make it snow. That's it. He's like, I cannot stop it. My phone is ringing off the hook. People want to buy houses out here. People want to live out here. We have a jewel, and it's just something that we have to deal with. We've been discovered. A little bit about me. I'm a day tripper. I grew up in Tampa. The Tampa and the Lakeland families used to come out here. And, when I finished with my schooling and I decided I want to dig roots and start a family, Anna Maria kept coming up as number 1. So I've been out there 14 years. I've got 3 kids. Little confession here in the public. I was actually born in New York. And I was born in Poughkeepsie. Well, my dad worked for IBM. That's a lot of IBMers up there. But one of the things is Anna Maria Island is an economic driver. There's no question about that, and we've had a rough time. We've had a rough time in the past 5 or 6 years. I'll bring up some issues that I was just thinking about last week that were very effective out there on tourism and the driver of the county. If you remember, one winter we had 4 hurricanes, crushed the businesses out there. One winter we had an oil spill, crushed the businesses out there. One year we had the Canadian dollar went south, crushed the business out. One year we had 9/11, crushed the business. One year we had red tide, crushed the businesses out there. All those businesses out there barely survived. So right now things are going well out there and they're happy. And you know, part of that feathers into Manatee County. In my tax bill in Holmes Beach, I pay about $3,000, okay? 45% goes to the school board, 45% goes to the county. About $300 of that goes to my city, Holmes Beach. We are the school board's #2 customer, okay? We are one of the top 5 customers of the county. It's a huge economic driver out there. There's a lot of island families that depend on the business. If you go to the school there, and 25% of the school is school choice from Northwest Bradenton. There's a very big interconnection there. But just about everybody in the school, there's 250 kids there. Their mommies and their daddies either work in construction or retail or restaurant or real estate. So there's a lot of things that are tied together. But the reason I was brought here is to give you a flavor of what the issue is with the residents. Because there's a lot of residents that are upset out there. There's a lot of residents, and a lot of it is enforcement issues. A lot of it is past administrations, and it's always been a sleepy town, and maybe the ball's been dropped in the past, and it's just hit us like a ton of bricks the past couple years. You have a lot of private property rights. You have a lot of developing going out there right now. There's traditionally the old cinder block house that was built in the 50s that's used its useful span. And maybe the person that was there, this is actually happening today. They're tearing down the house next to me right now as we speak. I was just showing the video. My neighbor was there 35 years. She had some medical issues. She retired. She sold her property for $425,000, and they tore down the house, tearing it down right now. So there's a lot of transition going on. And if I wanted to regulate that piece of property and make it a park, I could buy it for $425,000, but I just don't have that laying around. So there's a lot of people that do have that, and things are coming in. There's a lot of changes, and it's happening very quickly, and all the cities are trying to deal with it. A little history, back in the day, I see Commissioner Chappie here. He was the mayor of Bradenton Beach. They made a conscious decision down there to be a tourist type of city. Okay, Anna Maria has always thought of themselves as a residential type of city. Holmes Beach has always been a mixed balance. In 2007, I think we caught wind, and our city attorney is here, we caught wind of maybe some things happening in the state legislature about them changing the rental laws and making every single residential district a tourist district and allowing you to rent by the night. So we had R1, R2, R3, R4. We had our rental districts set up. Some were 7-day, some were 30-day. So our R2, our 7-day district, where some of these houses, older houses, are being torn down, and the builders, of course, are building to the maximum capability, and they're putting people in the houses as much as they can. We're having enforcement issues, and it's upsetting a lot of the residents. And there's different ways we've tried to attack it. Commissioner Palin and I were there when we came up with this LAR concept, which is a living area ratio. But you heard David talk about limiting the amount of people in bedrooms. Well, how do you do that? What do you knock on every single door and you spend the resources of your police department knocking on every door every week? You can't do that. So we came up with let's reduce the size of the house, reduce the size of the box, and if they can get 12 people in there or what have you, let the real estate agents and the noise issues and complaints be enforced with that. But that was also with our attorney something very hard to do. This is coming after the 883 bill, and we're saying to ourselves, are we going to get sued? Because if you're going to mess with religious rights, civil rights, gun rights, private property rights, you better have a really good reason. You better do your homework, or else you're going to be sued. And as a commissioner, you're looking at the risk management and the liability of your city. You're looking at all the things. So we were able to get that through, and we were also able to tweak a lot of enforcement rules. But when you do that as well, you know, again, I've got 3 kids and I've got a pool in my backyard. If you're looking at noise ordinances or you're looking at setback regulations, because of 883, because we have the different districts, I'm not just enforcing that. I'm not regulating just the rental district. I'm regulating my house too, all the districts. You know, if I'm going to say, all right, we're having a new noise ordinance kick in at 10 o'clock, I better make sure my kids are out of the pool by 10 too. You know, so there's a lot of intricacies involved here, and it's very difficult. And we've had a lot of residents upset because back in the day, you know, Anna Maria was very sleepy. Like, I've been coming out there since I was 10 years old. And if you came out from Tampa and Lakeland and you spent a week out there in the summer and you didn't behave yourself, guess what? You weren't invited back. You weren't invited back. That's how it was back then, because when you stayed at the house, you knew whose house that was. We've got people coming from all over the world right now. And just like you guys see here during season, we've got people coming from all the different states driving here, and they all drive differently. You know, sometimes it's tough to say, hey, you know, this is how, you know, right. So we've got people coming from all over the world, and they're all behaving a little differently. And we're having sometimes a little bit of an attitude where there's a house on my street that rents for 13 grand a month. Yeah. So I paid 13 grand a month. I can do whatever I want. Well, you know, that's not going to sit copacetic with some of the residents when I got to go to work in the morning. So, you know, I'm just trying to give you a little flavor of what's going on out there. This is a big issue. We just had a really contentious election, and I was reelected, I think, by 2 votes or 12 votes. I don't know what it is right now. We'll find out at 4:30. But I've always thought, my own personal opinion, there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance. But people need to, and I think the consensus of most of the commissioners and mayors on the island is, we want you to come out, we want you to have a good time, but you got to behave yourself, because there's people that live out here. What was I going to say? I think that's about it. I mean, we have an economic jewel. We have a beautiful place to live. We are so blessed and so lucky to have that so close, because there's literally people that come from all over the world that spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars on something that we get to do for free. And this is my own personal opinion here, is that you know, I believe it should stay for free. I do embrace the interrelationship we have with the city of Bradenton and the county. I think it's very important that we have worked together, the county commissioners and the cities out there. You can't just go back to the 1950s and pull up the bridges and tell everyone to go home. You can't do that anymore. The world is too much of a small place. This is my own opinion. But there has to be a concerted effort to make sure that you know, that people behave themselves, people follow the rules, and people just be respectful. Someone had mentioned the article in the Bradenton Herald about the house on Riverview, and it's starting to leak into other neighborhoods. And I've always said that too. I've always said, I live in a rental district. I knew that. I bought there. I knew I live right on the beach. I knew people were going to come use my beach access. I knew it. I'm accepting of that. I knew that. But let's say you lived on a golf course in Lakewood Ranch, and let's say someone bought the house next to you and then decided to put 20 golfers there a night. You'd be pretty pissed. So that's what's happening out there. So I appreciate it again. Thank you for the opportunity. And Tom A.
Thank you very much, David. You know, one of the things that people from Poughkeepsie don't know how to do is tell time. So here you go, folks. I don't know how much time you want for questions, but I want to tell you that we moved to Anna Maria Island in 1997, and I think in 1998 I opened an office on the north end of Longboat Key. So for all those years, I have driven from the north end of Anna Maria to the north end of Longboat Key, which may make many of you very, very envious. But the fact of the matter is, it's given me an opportunity to understand the differences between the two islands, and also the differences between 1997 and 2013. So let me touch a little bit on that today. I don't have any fundamental disagreement with what either of the Davids have had to say. The fact is, Enforcement is critically important to dealing with the problems that are frustrating persons like me who live on the most residential part of Anna Maria Island. And I will tell you, by the way, that if you talk to anyone in Anna Maria and you talk about limiting growth and making property smaller, they'll say, well, we don't want to be like Longboat Key. If you talk to people on Longboat Key about tourism, what's happening on Anna Maria, and wouldn't it be great for business on Longboat Key if some of that came down the island a ways, we don't want to be like Anna Maria. So ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to one very confused human being because I spend my day between these two places. As president of the Chamber of Commerce on Longboat Key, my goal was to support the business community. Because the Chamber of Commerce was largely a disliked organization on Longboat Key when I got there, the first thing I had to do was get them to like us. And the only way that I could do that was by convincing the people of Longboat Key that the Chamber of Commerce was really a community asset. So we began to create programs that were beneficial not just to the businesses, the very limited number of businesses on Longboat Key, but to all of the people who call Longboat Key home. Now my sense, making that 10-mile trip every day of my life, twice, and in season, you do not want to be coming north from Longboat Key through Bradenton Beach. Do something about this, David. Through Bradenton Beach from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on, because that's like a 45-minute ride, and it's only 10 miles. What really is needed is something David Z had to say. And he said it right at the end of his remarks. He talked about balance. Balance means different things to different people. And you have to figure out a way to understand what everyone means by balance, what really is balance. I want to tell you something. I want to pat the government of Longboat Key on the back right now and make this recommendation to Anna Maria, and then we can get to your questions, which are far more important than anything I have to say now. Longboat Key just involved itself in a comprehensive study of the island. It engaged the services of a rather well-regarded organization called the Urban Land Institute. I was part of that process peripherally all along. And ULI did an extraordinary job in pointing out to Longboat Key those things that it really needs to focus on. It pointed out, for example, and this is important to Anna Maria Island as well, that for the next 15 or 20 years, the number of people who buy second homes will be significantly lower than it has been because there is a decline in the population of people who are 45 to 60, and they are primarily purchasers of second homes. So they are saying to Longboat Key, look out, because that population which has driven your economy for all of these years is declining in number. And by the way, there are plenty of people out there competing with you for that, higher income person who wants that luxurious second home. I'll also tell you that one of the things I said to ULI is that when you spend $2 or $3 million on a second home and you only live there for 2 months, you really don't want to see anything change, because that's going to disrupt the 2 months of your life that you're really spending on vacation. So Longboat Key has a real challenge in front of it to re-identify itself. In the 1980s, the people of Longboat Key said, we want to stop growth. And so they passed laws that limited the number of people, quite frankly, who could live on Longboat. By the way, these two islands are almost exactly the same in population, almost exactly the same in size. Longboat Key has a larger number of units because they've got higher buildings at the south end than Anna Maria will, we presume, ever have, because Anna Maria is very low scale. The age on Anna Maria is 10 years younger than the age on Longboat Key. But one of the things I would recommend to Anna Maria is that it face up to the reality that Longboat Key chose to recognize, and that is that it needs other people than just the islanders to take a look at it and tell it what's wrong along with what's right. That's what ULI just did for Longboat Key, and Longboat Key, instead of putting that study on the shelf and saying we're not going to pay any attention to this, within 1 week had a meeting in which their town manager presented a PowerPoint presentation in which he's attempting to focus on every single element of the ULI study. Now that's proactive government, and I recommend that to Anna Maria, but it's a little tougher on Anna Maria, folks. Longboat Key has the same population and it's the same size and it has one government. Anna Maria's got 3 governments. I had a lot to do with the charter of Anna Maria a dozen years ago, and I put one sentence in that charter that said that the mayor of the city of Anna Maria could appoint, with the advice and consent of the commission, a city administrator to help with the day-to-day operations of the city. If the other 2 cities on Anna Maria Island put that same sentence in their charters, that takes a lot of work, I know, but if they did that, there's a possibility that 3 cities could come together, maybe under one person charged with administrative responsibilities, and maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that some money would be found from savings that you don't have now when you have 3 police departments and 3 public works departments and 3 building departments. I know that it's difficult to get people to focus on how their lives might change with such a draconian measure as the one that I've just presented to you. But I think it's high time that it be considered on the island where I live. It is the case on the island that I visit for a lot of the day. But the thing that I would most recommend to my fellow Anna Marians is to bring in a team of outsiders who lack prejudice, who don't have a financial gain with what they're seeing and commenting on. Take a good hard look and let's start making some changes before the baby does get thrown out with the bathwater. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention.
All right, thank you. All right. Davis, are you leaving or do you have a question? All right.
I got a statement and a question. If you guys, and this mic's not live, but it's going to METV. If you guys want to slow down the traffic, put tolls on the bridges, and if you really want to slow it down, put it on both sides of the bridges. That kind of equal out that whole. But that's not my question. That's not my question. My recommendation is, because I think, we're all kind of in a direction in disasters that you all mentioned. We are in healthcare, and our reimbursement rates have gone down almost close to 20%, and money's tight. And it's always, I always talk to my coworker, and I always say, let's always keep in mind when we're like this, so that when you get to a point that you're in good shape, that you're under restriction. And so I go back to the disasters that y'all talked about, 9/11, the hurricanes. What were the business owners and what was the community saying back then that will mix now, and how will you take that and put it into your plans and moving forward?
Well, as just one person on the commission at that time, we tried to make it as business friendly as possible. We changed some of the parking regulations. We tried to encourage some tourism. That was, also during the Great Recession and those disasters, we were able to not go into our reserves at our city. We were able to keep the lowest tax rate in the whole county. We didn't fire any employees. So there was a lot of hard work to be done during those times. Those are some things that, we've got a lot of working committees right now, especially a traffic congestion committee, and those are issues that could be brought out at a commission level and talked about in the sunshine to, as you said, look at different variables during the good times so that if bad times happen, that you're prepared and vice versa. As far as the toll thing, that has come up several times. I'm personally not for it, but I know.
And it's a state road, so we wouldn't get the money anyways. Yeah.
Go back. My name is Cliff Curley, and I am a member. There has been a growing. I've never been accused of talking quietly until now. There's been a growing rumble of parking for day trippers out on the island. Mm-hmm. Can you update us where that is in terms of government or citizenry?
Okay. Yeah, I think there's got to be a good relationship with the county, because the largest parking lot in the whole county is Coquina Beach. And then Manatee Beach, even though that's within the city of Holmes Beach, that's regulated by the county. So I think that the county needs to really look at that issue. We do have one of our members of our traffic congestion committee here, Bob, if Bob, you want to come up and maybe add to anything or not, but Dave can actually has a couple things to say. But there's a lot of several citizen committees, and we're working on all different kind of aspects on how to address the congestion, because that's one of our biggest issues right now.
The most valuable thing that we have in Anna Maria Island is our beaches, and we have federal regulations about parking and access to the beaches. And when people talk about grassing over that right of way and taking off that parking, it's illegal. And there's issues there about how many parking spaces are required and where they are required. Charlie Hunsaker is in charge of natural resources. He gave me a 2-hour lecture on that. And reasonably so. The fact is that parking is a big deal, and a lot of owners in their homes in Anna Maria will get out of their home around 7 o'clock and they'll park right in front of their house. And some people have grassed over their parking spots, but guess what? Once you can't go to the beach because we can't have beach access, it's going to be a problem. So there's a lot of correlations between our greatest asset, which is the beaches, and parking. And also, while we're talking about beaches, if I could, renourishment is coming starting November. And we're very fortunate that Charlie Hunsaker was able to find a way to go ahead and do this in a way that's cost effective. And I strongly recommend perhaps that Tiger Bay can have Charlie come here and talk about that whole subject. It's a big one, because what we really have is our beaches. And
doesn't the federal grants look at public access and public parking as a huge component?
100%. That's exactly what I'm alluding to. Exactly. Yes. So hope that answers your question.
I just wanted to respond to each of the first questioners. I don't know what's gained except hostility by assuming that we need to put tolls on the bridges. I have regretted this discourse that's pitting people from the mainland, against people on the island. I think that's unfair. I think people on the island have expressed concern about congestion that I can tell you has grown dramatically over the years that I've lived there. But there are other ways, as you're hearing today, to deal with that. With regard to parking, though, I know Mayor Sue Lin in Anna Maria City has proposed, I think, 3 or 4 possible solutions to her commission, and they range from something very serious and strict to something not so serious and not so strict. And my recommendation would be to start with the something not so strict, not so serious, see if that works to help alleviate the problem, and build from there. And I think all 3 cities could do the same. Another suggestion that I made at one point, almost in jest, but I realized that somebody else said it, so it must be serious. At one point I said, it wouldn't be a bad idea to consider what would happen to Anna Maria Island if no one except residents could park there. If you were visiting, you had to park in a parking area close to the island, but off the island, and that there was a very intelligent shuttle service that took people to the island and up and down the island. Now, I said that thinking that it's an extreme and people would realize that I was kidding, until I read that that's somebody's suggestion. So again, my theory about all of this is that if you take the potentially modest, simple, short-term, let's try this approach to fixing these problems, and they are progressive enough, the problems are going to be dealt with, and nobody should be angry with each other about any of this. We live in a wonderful place, and people from the far reaches of Manatee and Sarasota County, for that matter, should be able to enjoy the beaches out here, but not at our expense. David is disagreeing with me, I'm suspecting.
I think that many of our issues can be solved if we can solve the overcrowding circumstances that we have with these giant houses. And that's my short comment.
John?
My name's John Vita. I'm a member. I'm also a former resident of Poughkeepsie, New York, so we're in good company here.
They're everywhere.
Been here since 1976. I would also point out that if Mrs. Sedgman was here today, that none of these time overruns would be happening today. So we're going to have to help Chris a little bit with that down the road. But my question is
one-termer.
my question is really, David, you had mentioned, taxes and $300 was all that really stayed in the community. And, I look at that and I, look at my taxes and, I certainly am not getting back the amount of services that I pay for, I don't believe, anyway. And it goes to other things and good things. But in fairness, I'm just curious, I think that the county and other sources pay for, the sheriffs and the beach, beach cleanups and some transportation. Am I correct in that, or
No.
I just was curious in the comment on that?
We've got our own police department, so they do depend on the sheriff for backup and things like that. And the beach renourishment, this is a good topic for TDC. Part of the tourist bed tax when these houses are rented are 6% of that goes to the TDC, and I think this year they're going to raise about $10 million, and some of that money goes to, along with the county and the federal government, to renourish the beaches. But this is an important fact that just now the TDC board has decided to repatriate some of those dollars to Anna Maria, because in the past they really haven't, besides the beach renourishment, and I think that's going to help the infrastructure, because I think what we're asking for out there is some help with the infrastructure, some help with the issues that we're having, because we want everyone to come out there, we want everyone to have a good time, we want everyone to come back. But if you've got a lot of traffic issues, if you've got a lot of noise complaints, if you've got a lot of overcrowding complaints, people are going to be unhappy and they're going to go somewhere else, and our economic driver for Manatee County is going to be gone. As far as the question, we're definitely a donor community, and I think everyone that lives out there accepts that and realizes that. So it is what it is. And
Okay, I'm going to use my outdoor voice. I'm Barbara Jennings, and I am a member, and I've never been to Poughkeepsie. So I'm sorry, I can't relate to the rest of you. Okay, I have a question, and again, I've only lived here about 13 years, but I know over time, I've kind of moved from the tourist to the resident kind of thing. And there have been talks about actually having a ferry that would go from a place where there's parking out to the island and back on a routine basis. And I know weather would be a problem and all that kind of thing, because it wouldn't be necessarily always there every day. But I always thought that made eminent good sense. And there is the trolley that is out there. There's other things you could do besides taking cars out there and parking. And so I guess what is the status of that whole thing? And is anybody really still taking that seriously?
That's a very good concept, and there's a lot of momentum on that. There's meetings going on to unite ferry service. For example, Bradenton Beach just received $500,000 from the TDC on a matching fund basis to rebuild their pier. As part of that rebuilding, they have to provide for boat access, water access for a water trolley. There's very serious conversation as well with St. Pete, bringing water traffic down and getting less congestion on the roads. It's a very good concept, and we're on it. Tourist development monies is a big point of how we spend the money, and we are very, very careful about how it is spent. Otherwise, we'll have to answer to the county and be chopped off in the knees or something. So we're trying to go ahead and build our tourism, but at the same token, we want to support the important things that are driving people who are staying here in terms of quality of life.
I want everyone to research something that I'm about to say. I want to know whether I'm correct. I understand from reasonably good authority that the sales tax funds that are returned to the communities are actually based on the year-round population in those communities. They're not based upon visitors, they're based upon year-round population. Now here's the problem that certainly David is dealing with, and my mayor is dealing with, and the folks in Braden and Beach are dealing with. If sales tax revenue is increasing, if resort taxes are increasing, and I appreciate what David is saying about how those tourism dollars come back to us, if those dollars are increasing, but the year-round population in these communities is dropping, the amount of money coming back to the communities is probably less. And that's just plain not fair with the burden that these communities are taking on. So, check me on the facts. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I'll stand aside if that's the case. But I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Just want to make a quick comment about the trolley. Carol Whitmore was the driving force behind that trolley. It is awesome. I think last year it had over 300,000 riders, 400,000. So imagine, let's say 2 people to a car, that's 200,000 cars you've taken off one of the most constrained roads in Manatee County. There are people now that come down here with their family that fly into Tampa or Sarasota, and they decide that we don't need to rent a car. We don't need to rent a car. We're going to take the airport taxi from Tampa or Sarasota out to the island, stay out there a week. We can save on not renting a car, and we're going to ride the trolley. So solutions like that are going to help us down the road. Thank you, Carol. The trolley's been a big hit. David TEITELBAUM has worked a lot on that too, but solutions like that is what we need.
Marla Huff with Huff Engineering, and I'm a Tiger Bay member. It would seem like there could be some cost savings associated with consolidation of the 3 governments, and there would be a way to keep individualities with possibly overlay districts. I'd just like to hear everybody's thoughts on that.
When I first got elected, I was in the committee with now Mayor Sharon and Duke Miller talking about these things, so I'm glad to hear Tom A. has said that is in their charter. I'd like to see that. Is New York City has 5 boroughs and they can do it? You know, it seems like maybe we could try to do it. It's been on the ballot, I think, once before, 4 times before. But you've got literally 18 chiefs out there. So you've got 5 commissioners in each city and 1 mayor. So you've got 18 chiefs. And it's kind of the old saying, you know, nobody wants to lose their power. But it does make economic sense. Economies of scale would absolutely work out there. There's been some attempts. Recently, our chief has put a proposal to the sheriff's county to try to maybe merge some of the police forces there, and it didn't work out, but there are being attempts to be made to save some money, because it would.
This is a little bit of a hypothetical, but it's for all 3 of you. As you may have heard, there has been a suggestion that there may be a hotel proposed on the Intercoastal Waterway near Anna Maria Island. And so my question to you 3 is, how does that impact what's going on out there? Does it alleviate the pressure on the vacation rentals, or does it, if it comes to fruition, does it add to the congestion on the island? What is the impact of that type of a project?
As a hotelier, I can tell you that we do need more hotels, more hotel rooms. It's important because what you have created here is pseudo hotels with these properties that are being rented out by the day. And it's a question also, Scott, of what kind of mix people are coming here. Are they coming here by the day, week, month? If you're talking about weekly business, there's a big flourishing business in renting homes. And for the most part, many of the homes all over are being rented by the week. Very few are outlaws and renting them by the day. My sense is that another hotel would be good. And I think you're talking about a place over on the other side where Cortez doesn't want it to go. And the real question is that a viable project, and will it proceed? I feel that if a hotel was there, it would be very, very effective. IMG is right there. They're doing a big, big expansion program. And from a tourist point of view, it would take pressure off, but by the same token, we have a lot of people coming that haven't come before, and we have a lot of repeat business. Our repeat business in our resorts is, our referral and repeat business is close to 80%. And that's very high. We think it's because probably of the great service we're giving, but the truth is that people come and they like it, get familiar with the place, and want to come back. Anna Maria has recently been voted the 4th best island in America. Forbes has called Anna Maria City the best small city in America. These are things that we at the Tourist Development have worked on in terms of getting these kinds of kudos, and public relations is much more powerful than advertising. And the fact is we've had very, very good press, with the exception of one mayor who has been continually talking about day trippers. The fact is, it's a small problem, and usually the biggest problem is during the high season when you have a lot of people on Labor Day, and of course we're going to be busy then. It's always been busy then. It'll be busy then in the future. But normally you don't have this problem. It's not that big of an issue. There are holidays that is a problem. And as far as the trolleys, Ed Hunsaker and I created a program where we put advertising on the trolleys, and the Chamber of Commerce is the beneficiary of that. And the program is now in effect where the money that's being created, 90% of it will be returned to the needy non-for-profits on the island. It's been a major success, and that trolley is so important. I know everybody comes to our place, we say, please get some dirt on your car, leave it in the garage. And it's important. So it's a function of the attitude. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming, and let's give a hand to the panelists. As a reminder, our next meeting is Tuesday, December 3rd, a joint meeting at Kiwanis Hall. And also the membership, be sure to get your membership dues in for next year. And I want to thank Donna for all the work she does for us. Everybody give her a hand. She's the one that runs this organization. And then let's give a hand to the great staff here at Pier 22. They do a great job for us. All right, thank y'all.